Styles. This is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and today I want to go over what I'm going to do for a league starter. This is pre-patch notes, but I'm 90% sure unless they nerf the skill I'm going to use, this is going to be what I'm going to be doing. So the main inspiration I got for this was a release of a new skill gem, and that was the Trinity support, which reads, hits with supported skills for which the highest damage type is elemental cause you to gain 25 resonance of other elements per second for 2 seconds, lose 5 resonant per second for each element you're not gaining, and supported skills deal 3% more elemental damage per 5 of the lowest resonance, and supported skills penetrate 10% elemental resistances while each resonance is at least 25. This tells me a couple of things. I assume resonance can go above 25. I don't really see that there is a cap on it, but I wanted to do a very quick elemental build. And I'd previously been doing a build just to mess around. It was an elemental hit Elementalist, and it was using Quill Rain. Quill Rain, of course, attacks 3 times per second as a baseline, and you can get Blood Rage and Frenzy charges to increase the attack speed, as well as some stuff on the skill tree. So I decided, you know what? With the changes, there's a couple of notable things that go along with this build. First of all, you have these new Shaper skills, Shaper of Winter, Shaper of Storms, Shaper of Flames. A couple of them caught my eye. Shaper of Flames I think is a little less exciting. I don't really want to go for an Ignite build, but I want to take advantage of Elemental Hit and do a lot of damage. And I also want to have some defensive utility. Now, your hits always shock. All damage with hits can shock. That probably means that even lightning damage or non-lightning damage can shock as well. By default, Elemental Hit will cycle through 3 elements, which we're going to use to proc Trinity. We're not going to use any of the unique jewels in order to focus on a singular type of damage. And then we're going to have this ability to shock every single attack. Shocks are always going to increase damage taken by at least 15%, which means we're always going to get a 15% more damage multiplier. And then of course we have the increase effect of lightning ailments you inflict when your highest damage type is lightning. That's only going to be 1 out of every 3 attacks on average, but we're still going to get 15% shocks pretty constantly, so that's going to be huge. Next thing is Shaper of Winter. I already use Hypothermia in my links for Elemental Hit, even without this, but this makes it so all damage with hits can chill. Chills from your hits always reduce action speed by at least 15%. Once again, this is huge, a lot of defensive utility, adds the ability to add Hypothermia for a big more damage multiplier. Elemental Hit has great base damage just to begin with, so this is going to be really nice. And then your chills can reduce action speed up to a maximum of 40% instead of 30%. That's not going to come into line all the time. We're probably not going to be hitting that big on bosses because chills are based on how much damage you do in relation to how much health they have. But it's kind of a nice thought that potentially you could slow something down by 40%. Adds that defensive utility as well. So that was the big one. And another one that came to mind was Mastermind of Discord. Now this is something I'm not going to have in my initial 4 ascendancies. I'll actually respec into it later, and I'll tell you why. There's a little cluster jewel here. It comes from the elemental damage and each of the individual elemental damages, fire, cold, and lightning, called Corrosive Element. It gives you 15% increased elemental damage. Cold skills have a 25% chance to apply cold exposure on hit. Fire skills have etc. You know, each skill has a 25% chance to apply each type of exposure on hit. Now, the new, let me pull that up. The new Mastermind of Discord makes it so that exposure you inflict applies an extra 25% to the afflicted or affected resistance, and then regenerate 1% of mana per second if you have inflicted exposure recently. That should be all the time because we're going to be constantly hitting, and the reason for that is, well, Elemental Hit is a fire skill, it is a cold skill, and it is a lightning skill, which means probably, more than likely, how this mechanic is going to work is that each of the 25% chances to apply exposure will apply separately every single hit. That's going to be huge. That means even if we're hitting with fire, we could potentially be inflicting cold exposure as well. So that means we're probably always going to have all the types of exposure up, and that's going to be really, really nice. Now, right now I have, rather than Trinity, I've been practicing and I have elemental proliferation with this, but that is the only major change. As far as the skill tree goes, well, we're probably, you get elemental hit at level 12. We'll probably just level with another skill up until we can just buy it from the library quest. Alternatively, we could mule it with a ranger, just do ranger up to level 12 to Merveil's Cavern. It takes like 20 minutes or whatever, and port that over, and I guess we could start using it right away. But I tested on like LMP and the coverage isn't good enough, so I don't think I would want to use elemental hit until we get greater multiple projectiles anyway, because it just doesn't feel that good. But the way we would do this is we'd head up this way, go down here because we're going to need dex, grab this stuff, go over here, swing over, grab lethal assault. If we are going to do elemental hit right away, I don't know how early, I mean, I guess we can check. Trinity is a required level 18 skill gem, so we'll get this in Act 2, which means, and I'm assuming Witch is going to have access to this as well, because it seems they want to try to push it with spellcasting. That's what they're showing. In reality, it's probably going to go with elemental hit and also with wild strike. So those will be the two. And my other idea is to do a wild strike raider, because you get exposure nearby, and raiders' new changes are that they always have phasing and onslaught, which is pretty crazy. Where is that? So you have, or onslaught, just straight up onslaught and just straight up phasing. So my other idea is a wild strike raider. I think that would be a lot of fun too. But yeah, my point is we'll get this really early on. If that's the case, we might want to switch to elemental hit pretty early, even before we get GMP, and just use LMP and suck it up, in which case we'll want to get like Mind Drinker and Blood Drinker to get some regen. We'll head down here. And we're gonna want to grab piercing shots pretty much as soon as possible. That means we can drop the pierce support, and that's going to be really useful. If we get something like a drill neck or something, we can get even more pierce and get some extra damage. Probably not the ideal quiver, but definitely useful, at least as a placeholder. And then grab the life, go over here, go down this way to grab this life so we can be right next to Forces of Nature instead of over the top. And I'll probably grab Golem Commander. Now, I've only allocated Liege of the Primordial because that's pretty much the only skill we're going to keep in, and we're probably going to spec out of that later. So we're going to do Liege of the Primordial and Golem Commander. To do Ice Golem, the most important one, we're going to be using Ice Golem and Precision to give us the accuracy we're going to need, as well as the only accuracy I'm really going to get from the tree, more than likely, if I do get any at all, is this acuity right here. So we're going to have that. With the golem buffs, Ice Golem gives a huge amount of accuracy. As you can see, if I take this off, hit chance, it goes up by 5%. So that's really, and that's with a max precision at level 85. So yeah, we'll be using precision and the ice golem to get that accuracy that we're going to need. And we can use two other golems. Right now I have stone golem and flame golem, but you can also use chaos golem if you think you need some physical damage mitigation. The actual defensive layers we're going to be using for now is going to be phase acrobatics and revenge of the hunted, as well as probably early on, well, probably all the way through, Bastion of the Elements. We have 22 notables that we'll be allocating, maybe 23. So that's going to give us a 2200 to 2300 damage shield. And once it's depleted, it regenerates just like the other Aegis skills. And it looks like it just takes every kind of damage. So if we're dodging a lot of stuff and we're evading a lot of stuff, when we are periodically hit, our Aegis is going to take the hit for us, and then it'll come back, and by the next time we get hit, it'll take it for us again, and also we won't be able to take reflected damage. So the skill points I'm going to use are Shaper of Storms, Shaper of Winter, Liege of the Primordial, and Bastion of the Elements. The order I'm probably going to get them in, I think we aren't going to have to worry about Reflect for a long time, so I think I'll probably just grab Liege of the Primordial first, get our triple golem going. That'll help us a lot through the early game. And then I'll probably grab Shaper of Storms, Shaper of Winter, and finally Bastion of Elements as the final one, because we're going to need Shaper of Winter to slot in Hypothermia, and Shaper of Storms is going to give us the most damage. Later on, we'll get rid of Liege of the Primordial to get Mastermind of Discord once we have all of the defensive things, and then we'll spec out of this just to use the extra points to get some medium and small cluster jewels, get some life and stuff from that. So that'll be pretty much where we're going to go. Or of course, there's a lot of jewel slots nearby. 1, 2, 3, 4 2-slot jewel slots, so we can do that as well. So lots of options here. So it's a very versatile build. This is pretty much the skeleton of it. The only kind of necessary item is, and it's not even that necessary, is Quill Rain. Let's see, we can take, there's other unique bows if they're going to be cheaper. For instance, we have, let's see, anything, Stormcloud. You can just throw a Stormcloud on there. It's got 1.86 attack speed, or depending on how much attack speed you get here. We have this one with up to 1.95, so it's still very fast, and it doesn't have the 30% less damage multiplier that Quill Rain, so, and it'll be a little bit easier to sustain your mana as well, and you don't do any physical damage with Elemental Hit, so potentially Stormcloud's even better. So lots of cool stuff here. I think it's going to be a nice little starter build. Alternatively, I still might go Raider Wild Strike, but yeah, you never know. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you're going to do as a league starter in the comment section below. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me there. You can also join the Discord, which is in the description. Probably going to be talking in it a lot more now that I'm kind of settled in at my parents' place again, which I moved back to. If you want to see future Path of Exile content, don't forget to subscribe. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye.